All right, meeting 2 of the Hexarchy. We're discussing the changes to the sociopath court made by Monopoly Man.
Hello. So, the first thing that I have is the very first sentence of the thing. The original states that when a resident is exhibiting sociopathic, violent, or murderous thoughts and behavior, and then in parentheses it says, or fascist, Marxist, authoritarian thoughts, I decided to change that to just violent, murderous, and dangerous behavior. This would allow it to not be a thought crime, preventing things for, you cannot prove that someone is thinking something, even if it might seem obvious to others. So this prevents that from becoming a problem using this court. My revision would make it so that it would only be a crime to commit these behaviors to become an actual problem. Because being mad at someone shouldn't be a reason to be in the sociopath court, because that's something that anyone can be. The second thing that I have changed, in the original, it says, well, actually, it's what it doesn't say. In the original, it does not mention anything about actually being mentally ill in the opening sentence. So what I decided to do was to add that in. So I have it now read, when a resident is exhibiting violent, murderous, or dangerous behavior due to a mental illness or other non-conventional form of reasoning on a repeated basis. So I decided to add in a mental illness or other non-conventional form of reasoning, meaning that this person would have to be mentally ill or not be thinking correctly or be in the right type of cognizance. Next is just a little thing that I wanted to put in is change request a trial to petition the court to hold a trial. That's just me being a stickler for grammar and stuff. And then I changed the name of the trial to a trial of mental fitness instead of a psychopath trial, sociopath trial. The reason why I did this is because it's more wide-ranging to all types of mental illnesses and other such behaviors, So it wouldn't just be focusing on sociopaths. The next one, again, I put if a majority of the jury, and in the original article it says if 2/3 or more of the jurors. That's just, once again, something for clarification. It simplifies the idea of the message a little bit more. Then, for the next change, I put in that same sentence. So, in the original it says, if 2/3 or more of the jurors declare sociopathic behavior. I changed that to, if a majority of the jury declares that behavior of the accused is violent in nature and that they are mentally unfit for regular sentencing. This will mean that the behavior has to be both violent and that they have to be not in charge of their, faculties in order to be charged with this crime. So, would
you consider like harassment violence? Because this is supposed to be like a non-criminal offense. That's the whole point of the sociopath court. So it's like it falls in the gray area between like harassment and actual violence.
Well, I guess that kind of falls under, is it harassment because of them just being, mean and wanting to harass you? Or is it harassment because they don't know better, because they're mentally unwell? And so in this case, then yes, harassment would fall under, as long as they were mentally unwell, then yes, they would fall under this. But if not, then that would just go to a regular court of laws and fall under harassment. You can get a restraining order or whatever else you'd so choose. or you can deal it in your tribe and get them removed from your hex. So, yeah.
Another thing, I was thinking this over and brainstorming about changing this.
Yeah.
I think the 2/3 with the jury would be better with 3 out of 3. Because it's very easy to get a 2/3 vote, right?
That is true.
And then furthermore, it says the first offense is 6 months therapy and the second offense is eligible for removal. I was thinking what would be a healthier option is the first offense is 1 month therapy, the second offense is 6 months therapy, and then the third offense is eligible for removal.
Yeah. I mean, that would be... I guess I would say that those are both good options, but I am not one
it's a little too strict right now, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
I think so too, but that would be something that we would probably have to change on another revisit, like a revise over it, because my revisions weren't to change the numbers, but to change the words. Pretty much to make sure that we're only dealing with mentally ill people, to make sure that we're, not just getting people who are just sending people here just because they're mad at them. That's kind of what I was doing. So maybe on another rewrite next vote, then we can put out to the people some number changes.
Yeah, this is the thing. Since this is a gray area, you're going to get like people going through a divorce in this court. You're going to get like friends who turned enemies into this court. And that's the purpose of the jury, is to kind of filter out the less severe cases that are pretty much just like your standard drama.
Exactly. And that's why I kind of changed it to the behavior of the accused is violent in nature and that they are mentally unfit for regular sentencing. So that would be that they both have to, first off, be violent in what they are doing. If they are just kind of unwell, then that wouldn't be up to, our court to deal with. That would be up to the member's family or other people. Because as long as they're not being violent, then in truth, they're not really hurting people. But then the other hand of that is that they have to be mentally unfit. So that would mean that them being, they have to have some sort of mental illness in order for this to even be considered a problem. So a couple going through divorce may be mad at each other, and it may even be violent in nature. But if they're not, neither of them are mentally unfit, then that'll just send them to regular court and probably couples therapy. That's not for the, court of mental fitness.
I don't know if I like the mental illness requirement.
Yeah, I mean...
It should be for everyday people, too.
That is true, but I think that this kind of focuses mostly on people who are, violent. Not for people who are just everyday people with, a little bit of depression or anxiety. That you can have remedied by talking to a doctor or getting a therapist on your own. This is, in my opinion, for more mandatory cases where someone kind of needs it because they can't help themselves.
What if someone is simply a sociopath? That's the thing. Like, they exist. I've heard they're like 10% of the population, actually.
Well, being a sociopath, as long as you're not violent and you're just then that's not a problem, technically. And I personally don't see it as a problem, just kind of being and going about your life. I mean, if I am remembering correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just don't kind of feel emotion. If I'm wrong on that, please, tell me. But that's not a problem or a reason worth sending someone to therapy over, because that's not something that can be corrected with therapy. Because
you don't think so?
I mean, it's about brain chemistry more than anything, I believe. It's not, even if we did send them to therapy because they are having problems, then that may not correct the solution. I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that they can't be, I guess you could say, cured of it, as it's just a kind of state of being for them, rather than something for us. Like, people can't just turn off their emotions. Same thing with them. They can't just turn them on.
If they're aware of them and they're aware of the consequences of them, then they can control their behavior, control themselves, control their urges.
Well, of course. Well, yes, being violent isn't necessarily a trait of not having feelings. I mean, sure, there are those who do have, tendencies. I mean, there are cases of those people, but for people who are sociopaths or psychopaths, I can't remember which one is violent or not, but some people just don't have feelings, and they just kind of go about their lives doing the same thing that we would, just with a little bit less emotion in it. And to me, that isn't a crime. This focuses on people who are violent in nature, not for just people who are going about their lives doing stuff.
I'm also curious, like, who's determining the state of a person?
The
jury.
That would be going to a
jury. The jury is comprised of people that are selected from what?
So the jury. So first off, the petition would be sent to the removal council, which then would select 3 jurors using the same method as Article 22. And evidence of the behavior will be presented by 3 or more accusers, and the accused may call up 3 residents in their defense. And then the jury will get to decide. And I'm reading that.
No leaning on any experts for information of the study of psychology, or.
Well, that would go with probably the people being brought up would be experts of some kind, as it would probably fall under the same stuff as a court of law would.
Okay.
And there is no rule stating that they have to be lawyers or that they don't have to be. Just like in a U.S. court, you can, kind of represent yourself. So, yeah.
But they never recommend doing that.
Exactly.
Because the law is very complex.
Yep. And that's why here you can bring up 3 people of your choice and 3 people of your choice. So that could be lawyers or otherwise.
Another thing, it says other non-conventional form of reasoning. Well, like,
yes,
that the wording is kind of weird.
I put that in. Yeah, I wasn't too sure about that. The reason
non-conventional forms of reasoning
is because not everything falls under mental illness or other more extreme versions, like I think it's clinical insanity is what it's called, when someone just has no bearing on reality whatsoever. That's not even considered a mental illness, I don't believe. That is a whole other, problem. Which is why I put that in there. I feel like that is kind of weirdly worded. But the way that I put it in is non-conventional form of reasoning means that they aren't thinking straight. They aren't with their faculties, is what my thought was on that. That is something that I myself am kind of iffy on and am perfectly fine to remove. If there's, a real big problem with that. Yeah.
And
I just feel like it leaves it open for a lot of things, like, to your point.
Yeah. I agree with you on that does allow for a lot of wiggle room. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't, I'm just, observing, giving my,
I'm perfectly fine with you asking questions and, poking holes in it, because that's what this is all about. I mean, having something like this is, very important. So feel free to poke holes and make suggestions of your own, as that's what I was trying to do in the first place.
I just feel the focus is too much on mentally ill people, and it takes the focus away from like sociopaths and fascists and Marxists and stuff. Like the original was written for the sociopaths,
the Marxists.
Yes, I will say, kind of just straight up, that was kind of the point when I wrote this.
Yeah,
is that I don't think that it should focus specifically on sociopaths and ideologies, but more of people who are exhibiting violent behavior and being both exhibiting violent behavior and being mentally unwell. Because people being a sociopath and not being able to feel feelings is not a crime in and of itself, but if they're being violent or dangerous to other people, then that is something that is a chargeable offense. And when it comes to the thoughts and the fascist, Marxist, and authoritarian thoughts, that is a thought crime. And the reason why I removed that was because telling what someone is thinking can be very hard. So it being a crime to think something is very hard to both hold up with facts and very hard to show with, evidence. It's something that's almost completely based on your view of the individual and not based on any type of, hard proof. When it comes to violent behavior, that's something that can be, easily found proof of, as, screaming and yelling at people, punching people. That's something that can all be easily obtained in some form of evidence, whether it be video or, actual bruises on someone's body. That's something that can be found out. But someone thinking something is much harder to prove, which is why I chose to remove that part.
So here's the definition of sociopath, which might help us here. A person with a personality disorder manifesting itself in extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior and a lack of conscience.
So what if somebody doesn't want to be, I don't know, what if somebody stays in their room alive?
That's perfectly fine, as that is neither violent nor any proof of being mentally ill.
I don't think anyone would accuse that person of being a sociopath just because they're a loner.
I mean, but what if somebody has a vendetta against someone? You know what I mean? It's like,
that would fall under this.
Antisocial behavior.
Yes. That would... Someone accusing someone is perfectly fine, but it would have to be 3 people accusing this person.
Vetted.
And this vendetta would eventually probably be thrown out because they have to prove that the person is violent and,
the behavior,
for my revisions, mentally ill. Yeah. There was one more revision that I wanted to go over. Is at the very end, you wrote, a second sociopathic conviction of the individual within a 3-year window makes him eligible for removal from our college. I decided to rephrase that as a second guilty, in quotations, verdict within a 3-year window makes him eligible for removal from our college. Now, I just think that that's wording, as I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it means the same thing.
That the second conviction... Yeah, okay. Just making sure, because the way that I read that and interpreted it was that a second, trial meant that they were eligible for removal.
Conviction is when the jury comes to a conclusion, right?
Yes. Yes. I just decided to make that a little bit more...
clear.
Easy to see, make that more visible for people, that a second guilty verdict, meaning that it isn't just going to trial twice in 3 years, is a second guilty verdict. So that just makes that a little bit more to see. And then, yeah. Is there any questions about that one specifically?
That last sentence, even though it doesn't fundamentally change the article, it's still nice to give reasoning for certain policies. Like, I do that from time to time in the Constitution. I have a sentence to clarify why that was added.
Yeah, that is true. I am actually perfectly fine with leaving that in, as, like I said, it is non-detrimental to the, whole thing in itself. The reason why I removed it was just because, it's an article. It doesn't really need an explanation to it, but, I mean...
I might even change that to 2.
If you want to leave that in, that's fine.
Only 2 sociopath accusations?
Yeah. I mean, that's fair.
3 per person per year is a lot.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, that's once again going to be something in the numbers. And that would be something different than what I am trying to do here. Yeah. So, I will remove the or other non-conventional forms of reasoning, as I think we've all agreed that is kind of iffy on the wording. Yeah. And I don't think that it changes my my message.
I think we should keep it called the sociopath court too. It just sums up what we're trying to do,
I agree. But I believe that I guess the correct term would be the psychopath, as sociopaths are non-violent. It's only when they become violent that it becomes a psychopath. A person without feeling who manifests it in violent tendencies. Rather than antisocialness. They are very close, and, before you read the definition, I didn't know which was which. But the main difference is one is violent, the other one isn't, which is my main thing, is that being non-violent but having a mental illness isn't cause for mandatory therapy.
Well,
but something that you can deal with on your own.
Changing the juror number from 2 out of 3 to 3 out of 3, I think will help make it much more conservative too.
I agree. But once again, I'm not here to change numbers, more just the wording of it. And we can always come back next voting and change those numbers. And I'll even agree with you on that. I think that having it be 3 out of 3, so that all jurors must decide, rather than just a majority. Yeah.
So you want to change the name to the Psychopath Court?
Yeah. Hold up a second. I'll be right back. Just a second.
Okay. This is one of the most controversial... What's up?
What?
This is one of the most controversial parts of the document, actually.
I mean, it's...
I'm sorry, just a second. Yeah.
People can behave in violent ways that aren't psychopaths.
See, there's the whole argument of, are words violence? And I would say no. So there has to be a line drawn between what is violence and what is not violence. And I strongly disagree that words are violence. That's why it says thoughts and behavior in the original one.
Well, behavior is key, sure. I would double down on behavior.
Yeah, behavior is better than violence. Because violence is like punching someone in the mouth, right? That's violence.
But there are people who are physically violent that have done physically violent things that aren't psychopaths. So
I'm back. Are you discussing on what would happen to someone who's just regularly violent and not mentally ill?
Yeah.
That would just go to a regular court.
Regular court.
Yeah, okay. Not our problem. It would go through this, trial would be held. Oh, well, they're just violent. Okay, to court with you. this would kind of be a precursor, I guess, to that. So if someone is being accused of being violent and mentally ill, and then they're found to just not be mentally ill, then it just goes to a regular court because they're just violent. So.
Yes.
Yeah, it just kind of gets moved along to the, correct place. As people who are just violent, this isn't the place for them to be, had their trial. And that's why I put a strong, feel on mental illness into the names and throughout the article.
So do you want to change the title to Psychopath Court?
Yes. I just had it at Revised Psychopath Court. I'll just leave it as that for a second. Or, yes, Psychopath. Just a second. Just had to figure out how to spell that. Okay, there we go. So, Psychopath Court. This would, again, be for only dangerous people, violent, and who are also mentally ill. If they're just mentally ill, then that's not a problem because they're not violent. And if they're just violent, then that's not our problem because it's going to a court and not the problem of the Psychopath Court. So, yeah. Those are the changes that I had. Again, no numbers are changed, only names and, titles, I guess you could say. Like here in the trial of mental fitness, I can just change that to a psychopath trial. Yeah.
You got the H.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Premium spelling here. But, most of the stuff is just little rewordings like petition instead of request, and then the names. But the main thing that I would have to say that the main difference is the difference between thought crimes and just regular crimes. And the just making sure that when you are being specific, that you mention that it has to be both violent and mentally unfit. Here is both violent. Yeah, there we go. That is my main revisions to it. Those 2 points are the major revisions. And because you also wanted it, I will add in the exclamation, because I'm perfectly fine with that. There we go.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or about what I changed? And yeah.
That's pretty much it. I see where you're coming from. There is a gray area that we're kind of trying to navigate with this.
Yeah.
And it's tricky.
Yeah, I understand that, and I believe that this would be the best way to do it, because this is strictly for just behavior, and for people who are mentally ill, as anything else could just be handled by a regular court. This is specifically for, cases like this, which, you can't just throw someone in jail for not knowing that what they're doing is actually wrong. This is to help people, not to just put them in a prison, So by making sure that is a person who does require therapy, not just someone who is, not feeling great, has depression and anxiety, those are not really problems. This is for, people who need it and are unable to see that they need it.
Okay, do you want to go to voting?
Sure.
You both received the Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yes. Sir.
Okay. Here's my vote totals. I could just post it in the chat or say them out loud, whichever you prefer.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just okay. I didn't fill anything out.
Yeah, I didn't fill anything out either. I apologize.
Yeah, well, I just recorded my own so that like I didn't have to do it in the moment.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering why I couldn't edit it. Yeah, I forgot to hit the edit button. Premium technology here.
So a 10% tax decrease and 10% UBI decrease. The taxes to be reduced can be possibly be child taxes and sunlight tax. I voted no on that.
I will also vote no on that.
No.
Okay, next one. A 10% UBI decrease and a 10% surplus. I voted yeah.
I will vote yeah.
Yes.
Okay. For sociopath court, making 3 out of 3 required for conviction, having 3 strikes eligible for removal. I was actually going to add last minute the therapy. First conviction would be 1 month, second 6 months. Does that sound good?
Yes, you can add that in. That's fine.
Yeah, so I voted yeah on that one.
I would also like to vote yes on this.
Okay, a member of the Hexarchy resigning or dying results in the 7th, 8th, etc. candidate being hired. I voted yeah.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
Making all numbers in the Constitution changeable using a 2/3 direct democracy vote, and words articles only changed by 5/6. I voted yes.
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 Monopoly Man sociopath court rewrite, which is what we just discussed. I will vote yes on that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
All right. The high tea abortion ban. This one was we were on the fence.
No.
Yeah. I'll go with yes. It's probably not going to pass because of the 5/6, but
yes. Okay.
Adding the same Hexarchy style hierarchy to the development and artistic councils. I voted yes.
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 And then large public projects, the fresh water source, a 1/4 acre pond dug out, and we didn't really come up with dollar amounts on this. I think we were supposed to come up with the dollar amounts for large public projects.
I mean, we can put that off till next time if it's
yeah. So even
because
though there's no dollar amounts, I voted yes for the pond.
I will also vote yes, pending dollar amounts.
Sounds good. Yeah, where are they going to get the money from?
Yeah, well, it's a one-time fee, but we need the dollar amount to determine what the fee is.
Yes.
So we have a few months to do that still.
Yes. So we'll just go back in the next voting and go with the dollar amounts as well.
The planetarium, I voted yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
The vertical farm, I voted no.
Why?
Yes. Oh.
Because it's just too much electricity, and the yields are too low and the electricity is too high.
I'll actually agree with that for now. I would like to change my vote to a no. That's a very good reasoning, as we don't have a lot of infrastructure in place yet.
How about you,
So
Shiva?
Well, it depends. I mean, okay. So how are we going to do it then? It's farming because the land is not a lot. That's the whole point. So
well, at this current point, we don't have the infrastructure to support it, which is the problem.
The yields are questionable.
We're not going to have our own. We have to farm our own stuff.
I prefer traditional farming though.
Yeah, but that requires land. Like, where's the land coming from?
Well, we have 50 acres in Alabama.
Yeah. I think that for right now, it can come up later again.
I think we need to be specific about where the land, what part of the land, and then project based on population what that land can yield, because then you also got to worry about soil health, the quality of the soil, and alternating crops and all of that, because you can really overfarm soil.
But my concern is, what if the yields are terrible and it's like a ton of electricity?
Well, we would have to perfect.
It's a high risk enterprise, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but what if we have it like a closed system where it has its own dedicated, solar panels, or wind?
I think I have a good idea for a agreement between the both of you. Instead of going all in on it, maybe we just start with a very small system, something that doesn't require a lot of power and can be more of an experiment for further,
For mathematics purposes, yes. And the same thing with the land. Like, we need to crunch the numbers.
A vertical farm that uses the sun. Have you seen some of those?
Yes. Yeah. You put it on your porch, they could actually be part of the design of the domicile.
They're like those plastic towers, and
we can use mirrors too. Why don't we take a page from ancient knowledge? With the Egyptians and how they utilized mirror and refraction and reflection to have light inside pyramids.
So if we focus on using the sun, then I would be more supportive of a vertical farm. I'm just worried about the electric costs. Like, the electric costs will not be... the economics just don't work if you use electricity.
Yeah, that's why I propose starting with just a very small system. Just a row or two, just to, a proof of concept more than anything. It wouldn't use much electricity, as it would only be, a very small part of a vertical farm, rather than an entire piece of it. And it would be, just for sake of saying that we tried and that we crunched the numbers on it.
Should we have a size too?
What?
Put a size amount?
It would just be very small. It would only be for numbers' sake more than anything. So it wouldn't have to be terribly huge. It could only be, a single... just a
I think we should design it for, one whatever, domicile.
Not even going for a full hex, just going for, seeing how much food can grow, in a row of plants,
And it allows people to grow their own. Instead of mass manufacturing something like this, we go back to, using what we grow, this idea of, simplifying.
Yeah, it would just be a proof of concept at first. Yeah. Nothing huge, nothing very expensive or, electricity demanding, Something that you could probably just plug into your house and have run, rather than a large entire complex for it. So, we can start off with the regular farming like you would like, traveling through time, but then eventually, if the proof of concept is fruitful, literally, then we can, transfer over, because it wouldn't take much to transfer between them. So, maybe starting with a proof of concept before we go all in on one or the other.
So, I was just thinking, for a dollar amount for the pond, I was thinking maybe 5,000, because it says a quarter-acre pond. Maybe 5K, just renting the excavator. And then a planetarium, we could have a cheap planetarium. Let's go really scrappy with it, maybe 5,000. I don't know how much the machine costs for a planetarium, but you could probably get maybe 10,000 for the planetarium.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. And then if our vertical farm uses the sun, and I say maybe 2 acres, maybe we'll do like 2,500 for the vertical farm.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? My thing cut out.
If the vertical farm is only like 2 acres, we just specify a size, maybe $2,500 for that. It could be more though, right?
It probably would be more, and I'm not even thinking like a full acre. Maybe just like a couple feet, just for a proof of concept. Not meant for yield, but meant to see how much a single or multiple plants could produce in this environment compared to regular plants.
So how about 1 acre, $2,500?
That sounds fine. I mean, we could just put the cost amount as $2,500 and just see how much that will get us.
Yeah. If it's $2,500 and it uses the sun, I will vote for it.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's just put a add on to those the vertical farm proof of concept.
I was just worried about a facility that would cost $100,000, use a ton of electricity, and would have questionable economics.
Yeah, that's why I agree with that. I think that with the proof of concept, that would make it a lot more.
Decentralize it.
It would making the proof of concept would help us with knowing either way which is better for us.
I think it's going to be an amalgamation of both.
Yeah.
There's going to be some things that make sense to have, to farm it. And then there's going to be the stuff that is everyday stuff. There's stuff like microgreens or, things, herbs. All that's going to be decentralized so people grow their own.
Yeah.
What they want, when they want, whatever mixture, they could share seeds. They could even barter with each other, maybe even sell it if they want to, but it's very common, in the domicile.
Yeah.
To grow, I think it's going to be very interesting to do the numbers, because I think by decentralizing it and giving the power back to the community, it would be a natural, organic, beautiful thing. And it's less health problems. People are actually, touching their food from seed to plate. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, maybe adding in or I guess you could say rephrasing the current vertical farm as vertical farm proof of concept. Yeah. I think that we can all agree on a proof of concept rather than going full in. Yeah.
I think growing lettuce and stuff is decent, but if you're doing crops, you really need really intense bulbs, really intense lights.
Yeah, being in stuff like corn and stuff may not work in vertical farms as they are very large, very tall plants. So there will be some stuff that we just straight cannot grow in a vertical farm. So yeah. So let's just start off with the proof of concept, and I will vote yes for that.
And Sheba, you're voting yes too?
Yes.
Wow, we just flipped 2 votes by clarifying the details.
Nice.
Magic of communication.
Yeah. The planetarium, I think, even though we voted for it, I don't know if it's going to get 2/3. Because it might be just a little too early to to build a planetarium.
Yeah.
Maybe year 2 or 3 would be cool.
That is true. I mean, stating that we're going to build it does not state the time frame in which we are going to build it.
Right. It might be more of a year 3 type of scenario.
We can promise that it will be there eventually.
And then a referendum on a flag, which is $0 estimate. And
sure.
I said, sure, why not?
Yeah.
$0 sounds great to me.
All right, so voting's done. for the three of us.
Hooray! Okay. Hard work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So any agenda items I had, I'm gonna push until we have more people,
Yeah.
because it involves everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we can bring that all up next time we meet, or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, I think that
Anything
brings
else?
us to a close.
All right, sweet. I guess we could wrap it up nice and early.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Efficient.
All right, see ya.
Okay.